The next ISO we're going to create is ISO 5. So let's create a document and we'll call it ISO 5. And this is going to be a parts file. So looking at the Bible, here's my ISO 5. I can see that the width is 2 inches. The total height is 1.25 inches, and the total depth is 1.25 inches. So I'd probably write it in this area right here just to keep those numbers handy. Coming back here, I'm going to sketch on the front plane, and I'm going to pop it over to the front. And this time I'm going to use the line tool. So I'm going to just create an approximation of that shape using the line tool. Notice here, do you see that little vertical line to the right? That's a constraint that's showing me that this is a vertical line. And I do want it to be vertical, so I'm going to click and then drag this way. This time I want a horizontal line. And the line that looks like a minus sign is telling me it's that. Okay, I'm going to click down and create another vertical line and click over and create another horizontal line. And you'll notice this time that the symbol that shows up shows me I have a right angle between those two lines. Okay, let's come down and create another vertical line, and we'll come across with a horizontal. We'll come up, we'll come over, and don't worry if you're not perfect. Okay, notice the little dotted yellow lines. They're telling me that this point is even with the points to the right. I'm going to come over a little bit. I'm going to come up with a vertical line, waiting for those little yellow dots, and come over and complete my shape. So now you'll notice this looks a little funky, but that's okay because we're going to fix it. So here's where the constraints are. Okay, the first constraint we want to talk about is the coincident constraint. That's when two objects share the same point or the same location. Okay, concentric like circles. Parallel, okay, and this is a symbol for parallel, showing the two lines are parallel. Tangent, a circle and a line. We saw the horizontal, we saw the vertical, we saw the perpendicular. Okay, we can make two lines equal. We can find a midpoint, and we can do some work with symmetry. So the first thing I want to do is I want to just click out of there. I want to, whoops, and I'm going to hit the escape because I'm no longer drawing a line. I want to make sure that this is a horizontal line. So coming into my tools, I'm going to go to horizontal and click on this line. Okay, it just made that a horizontal line. Okay, a couple things I know from my sketch. I know this and this are equal. I know this and this are equal. And I know this and this are equal. So you might have noticed that there's an equal constraint. Okay, I'm going to click on the equal and I'm going to say make the second one equal to the first. And I'm going to do the same thing. Make those equal. Make these equal. Well, we can make these equal as well. Okay, and that will set things up so that we only have to put a couple dimensions instead of a ton of dimensions. Okay, let's go to dimensioning. We're going to dimension the total width first. And we know that total width should be 2 inches. Okay, let's zoom in. Let's do our total height next. And we know that our total height should be 1¼ inch. Okay, all right. So now let's take a look at our diagram, and we know that this dimension here should be 0.5. So I'm going to bring this out, and I'm going to say 0.5. Okay, notice that this dimension changed as well. If we click on it and we drag it out, it's definitely 0.5. I'm going to hit the escape because I don't need that in creation of my object. Okay, so I know that 1.25 minus 0.5 is 0.75, and that's what this should be. Oops, let's go back to dimension. And it is. So I'm going to hit escape because I don't need to clutter up my diagram. All right, so now that I have my height information, I need to continue with my width. I need to know the width from here to here and from here to here. And that will give me that width as well. So let's go back to dimensioning and let's say that this should be 0.25. Watch the shape on the right. Okay, that changed as well because we set these up to be equal. Okay, I could dimension this and that will give me a 0.25. I'm going to hit escape because I don't need it. Okay, I need to know this height here as well. So if I take from here to here, oops, go back to dimension, from here to here, I know that that needs to be 0.25 as well. So 0.25. Okay, and now I have a fully and correctly dimensioned shape. So I can click on the check mark. But before we do that, let's turn on the constraints. Okay, I see a bunch of coincident points. I see a bunch of vertical lines. I see a bunch of horizontal lines. I see some 90-degree angles, and I should see all of that. I see some equals showing that lines that are equal. So that looks good. And again, if I want to check anything, I can use the dimension tool to check any of my other dimensions. So I have my total width, I have my width here, my width here. Oh, guess what? We're missing one. We need to know, we know the total width, we know these widths, but we don't know that these are in the correct location. So I'm going to say that, why don't we do this? Let's do this dimension. Oops, excuse me. I don't know what I had clicked on. Let's try that again. Dimension from here to here. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not working. Let's try that one more time. I'm just going to hit the escape key because who knows what I have selected. We're going to click from here to here, and we know that that dimension should be 0.5. Watch this part on the right when I hit the enter key because that should jump as well because we set them equal. Okay, so 0.5. I know that if I take this dimension, that should be 1. Okay, and we can dimension that if we'd like. Okay, and then notice how it's grayed out. It's saying you don't really need this because you have these equal constraints here, and we know what that is. So we know 0.5 and 0.5 are 1. We know your total width is 2, so we know that has to be a 1. But in your creation, you can certainly over-dimension just to make sure you're correct. Once you are, you have your shape, and now you're ready to extrude it. Okay, before we said our depth was 1.25, so we know we're going to extrude this face and we're going to extrude it by 1.25. Okay, and that's your ISO number 5.